2, 1, 0.
Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna, please bless this show. Put your words in my mouth. Om Namo Narayana. Welcome back, everyone. Sorry about the delay in getting going. I was having some technical difficulties. So I was reflecting on some things the other day from years past during COVID, and listening to a talk I did with someone, Leanne Marino. It's here on my YouTube. We did a show together. She's a Christian minister, and so we did a show together right when the lockdowns first started in 2020. And I was just reflecting on this, and something came to my mind. And I thought, oh, that's a really interesting statement. And at the time, I thought it was in error, but now I think it's really in error. This statement showed, and it came from a Christian friend of mine, and actually Leanne heard it from others too. It proves to me now, reflecting upon it, that Christians are atheists. And they don't actually believe God is all powerful, nor that God is doing much. Sort of like a rock, really. And not the rock, just a rock. So let me propose this idea to you. So a friend of mine from high school, so nearly 30 years ago, has said on Facebook when COVID started, and that people, she was pro-vaccination, and so people who were against the vaccination, whatever, she just was like, oh, you're insane, and all this, and she said, and this kind of hurt our friendship a little bit, sad to say, she said, God is laughing at us, and God is sitting back and is gone. We've lost God because we're acting so stupid. God can't take it. And I remember going, yeah, no, God's with us. I mean, I'm not worried about dying or anything. That's because to me, death isn't scary. But it's like, no, God is here. God is here. And my friend Leanne had similar statements like God is laughing, God is gone, God isn't listening to our prayers anymore, etc., etc. The problem is that maybe God had a purpose for COVID. You know, I like to think that actually God had a purpose for COVID because it opened up Pandora's box and we got to see behind the mask of so many people. I personally think Dr. Fauci is evil. Would anyone know that without COVID? The New World Order discussion about people taking over, we had that, but now it kind of made it in the forefront. And yes, you can say these are conspiracy theories, but we actually did see a lot of bad things happen from people who you may not have thought were bad, and now suddenly, like, wow, Gretchen Whitmer, you're not really a great governor. Wow, you're kind of authoritarian. But would we have known that? Things like that. So maybe it wasn't that God left us, but that God was going, oh, no, 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 this is our plan. Now, why he would do that to us is a concept of evil in the world, and that's a whole other podcast. But I'm not thinking about this in the long term. I'm recording this in 2024. And here I am thinking about God sitting back and laughing at us. Take the first statement. God has probably seen everything. Well, God knows everything, so God has seen everything. If God has not seen everything, then it's not God, okay? So you're telling me that someone going, vaccines that were just discovered yesterday are not safe, is causing God to laugh after what? 10,000 years of humans? We have flat earthers. You're saying God doesn't laugh at them, but he's laughing at someone who doesn't trust a vaccine. Really? So God's like, oh, the flat earthers, that's a really good point. Oh, but those vaccine people, oh my God, I have never seen anything that hysterical. Are you kidding me, people? You think this is the craziest thing God has ever seen? Well, God says, he's hanging out with the angels. Those Earth people think that the moon landing was faked. I'm God and I've seen everything. But they may have a point. God, I actually created the moon landing, but now that I think about it, I might have faked it. But have you heard about the anti-vaxxers? Oh my God, have you ever heard of anything so ridiculous in the history of all the humankind ever? Really? Think about this for a minute. Someone who doesn't trust medicine is the funniest thing God has ever seen and is laughing at us. That's kind of like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. If you look at the entire history of the world, that's the funniest thing God has ever seen. God's never laughed at us before. Maybe God laughs all the time, and we just don't know it. Does that really make sense to you? No, it didn't to me at the time. I tried to be nice, but my friend just, she, whatever. It's too bad because I thought she was cool. Um, and I know she'd had some harsh things in her life too, and men telling her what to do was not really, or telling her that she was wrong. Actually, I wasn't telling her what to do, but she was wrong. Yeah, that kind of touched some issues for her. Um, anyways, but her statement just doesn't make sense. But let's look at the other thing that was said, and that is God has left us. Now, my friend Leanne, um, she's a pastor in North Carolina, and she had heard that same thing. God has left us. He's not answering our prayers anymore. Well, first of all, how many prayers did God actually answer on a regular basis? Let's statistically start counting. Um, all the people who failed the math exam in high school, did God answer their prayers? Come back to me when you have an answer. But let's look at the question. God has left us. God is gone. Well, first of all, what the hell, Christians? What the hell? So, this is God's world. God created this world. So, where did God go? If God is gone, where did God go? This statement that God has left us implies that there's another universe completely cut off from us that God can go to. And why doesn't God go there more often then? Why is this so God created us, then there's this other universe that God never goes to, but suddenly COVID happens and God's like, oh my God, those anti-vaxxers. And went to this other universe that after millions of years God's never gone to? Or does periodically God vanish from the world? Like during the Holocaust, God went, oh, yeah, I got to go. They got the good beer in the other room. Where does God go? That would mean God has created multiple universes, but God doesn't hang out in the other one, but God hangs out in this one, I guess. Or is God just sitting back going, I ain't responding to you fools? But then God does, like I said, about the math class. But also, if God left us, really, if God isn't here, God vanished during the years of 2020 to 2021, we'll say, then came back. At what point did he come back? Was there one day everyone was, whoa, did you see that? The sun just blinked. Must mean God's back. At one point did God return? Or has God permanently vanished? So in 2020, March 2020, I guess, did God vanish? Now, did God vanish when the first outbreaks happened with patient zero in China? Or did God vanish when Nancy Pelosi was talking to Chinese people in San Francisco going, hey, there's nothing, this isn't a China virus? Or did God vanish when the lockdowns happened? When did God actually vanish? Or because of there's an hour, multiple hour difference, the time change, did God vanish? And again, is God here now? I don't know. The world kind of looks the same as it did before 2020. And there's people who were born after that who will never have lived through 2020. For them, it's just talking about history. Like I talk about the Civil War. So I guess they were born without a God then. I guess. So there's a whole generation that never will know God because God is permanently gone. So when did God come back? When we figured our shit out? And when was that? There was a news report not so long ago that there was another virus back and it's worse, bird flu, whatever, I don't know. Did God leave us then? Or did God come back after that? Did God go, oh, the end of whatever? When the CDC changed the rules, did God go, oh, it can come back now? Oh, but no, I don't like those rules. I'm going to leave again. Think about it. Also, if God runs the world, if God controls the world, now in Hinduism we actually believe that God is involved and God makes the world go round. But in the Christian view, in the Judeo-Christian view, if God is active in the world, why am I still alive? Okay, let me back up for a second on that question. So God vanished in 2020, in March of 2020, when the patient zero, or I guess, I don't know, February, let's just say it's February in China. We were seeing the news reports. God had already vanished, but we didn't realize it. So God is gone. God is involved in the world. So therefore, why am I still alive? Because shouldn't the earth have crashed into the sun? Or gravity stopped working? I mean, seriously, if God runs the earth and keeps the earth functioning and God has vanished, shouldn't the earth stop functioning? So I should, whoa, gravity, there's no gravity anymore, people. There's no gravity. God's gone. Someone get some vaccinations happening. So, someone to help me because God's gone. Someone vaccinate yourself so God will come back. Think about this for a second, people. If God is gone, how is the world still functioning? Okay? If the world is still functioning without God, that means God doesn't run the earth or make the earth function. And in which case, how does the earth function without God? Or if the earth functions fine without God, and if God vanished in 2020 and there was an entire generation born without God, that would imply we don't need God. God is useless. Or there is really no God. We don't need one. I mean, or what does he do? What does God do if not run the earth? He's not really, I guess, all-powerful. Because if God is God is the controller of the earth and God vanishes, that means the earth is no longer being controlled. And shouldn't it just start spinning? Oh, here comes the moon. It's going to crash into us any minute. Hey, is that Jupiter? Where the entire universe will just like explode? Think about it. Without God, the world goes into chaos. If God controls the world. So therefore, my friend and others who said God has left us basically said God is kind of useless. God doesn't do much as it is. God's like that middleman supervisor at work who you hate, who you think they should fire and life would still go on at the factory, you know? God is an extra tax on your bill that you don't really need. So basically, these Christians who said God left us basically are saying they don't really believe in an all-powerful, all-knowing God. A God that is active in the world. They believe in a non-active, passive-aggressive, kind of a jerky, kind of obnoxious, kind of cocky God that doesn't really do anything, that we don't actually need. Because God left us in 2020 and we're still here. Therefore, we don't need God. Ponder that for a second. If God is gone, then we don't need God. And the world is still functioning, then we don't need God. And given statistically how many prayers God actually answered, I think these Christians just declared that they are not true believers in God. They're atheists. Am I wrong? Maybe. I could be. Could be wrong. But think about the question. God is laughing at us because he's never seen anything as insane as vaccine deniers in the history of the world. You know? Or we don't have a history book. No one's written a history book of, well, in 1700, God laughed at us. And then Galileo got some good chuckles out of God. There's no history book of God's laughter, really. And so we assume he's never laughed until now. And it's funny because not just was God laughing at us, but he also vanished this time. It's so bad. It's so bad. This time around, God said, I'm done with you. Screw you. And God left, and we realized we didn't need him anyways. Right? Or there is a belief in Sanatana Dharma that the gods are alive because we still believe in them. So I never stopped believing in God. So for me, God never left. I think God was very well here, alive and well and present and still doing things. And anyone who didn't believe that was just wasting their time, and time was vanishing. And I mean, it was like you were literally just wasting your time. You were wasting your life away out of fear that God vanished when God was still here. So in my world, God was still here. He just wasn't answering your prayers anymore. I had a good time. Lockdowns. I was very productive. I went out and did 100 days of chanting Shrim Brazi. Actually, 108 days. Because had just discovered Shrim Brazi, and I did some stuff around the house, and I was very productive, and I felt really good. And it was nice not having traffic on the street when I went out walking. Um, and and I moved in with my girlfriend. So it was really good. And I didn't have to see my landlord because no one was talking to each other because I didn't really like him. So it was very good for me. But you think God vanished for you because you're living in fear, because you're basically afraid to be alive. And he didn't answer your prayers. So thus God vanished. But he didn't vanish for me. So thus God really didn't vanish. Because otherwise, who was blessing me? Satan. So Satan was helping me out by making sure I didn't lose my job. Thank you, Satan. Think about this for a second. Think about this for a second. These silly Christians. Of course, these were statements said in fear, but it's funny, and I think Leanne and I, when we did this podcast, it's linked down below, we really did kind of hit on something that fear makes you think in different ways, and sometimes you reveal maybe your inner feelings. Like, yeah, maybe these people really didn't believe. Church was about something else for them. It was a social time. It wasn't really about belief because their beliefs immediately fell apart once there was a tragedy. And yet, her and I discussed in this show in 2020 that actually, in the times of tragedy, that's when God. That's the whole. That's when your prayers really count. Because if you're just praying in the good times, then it's when the bad times. That's when you really have your faith tested. That's the word I was trying to think of, and I blanked out for a second. So, if in the bad times, when your faith is tested, you completely abandon all faith and you abandon all hope, then did you ever really have any faith to start with? Well, I think some Christians prove to us they didn't. And they don't understand God. That's just my thoughts on this. I was feeling nostalgic and going back in time and looking at this old podcast and some other stuff I did, and yeah, it was like, this is very interesting. This is very interesting. So, anyways, I will leave you here with that thought to pontificate on your own in the comments, and I have to say, be discerning when people say things. Always be aware of what you're hearing and what people are saying, and I mean, for lack of better words, that's how you will truly discover God and truly discover enlightenment, is by not taking all these statements at face value, truly thinking about this stuff. And so if someone says to you, "Oh, God is missing," don't just go, "Yes, you're right," because did you realize what you're saying? So, okay, thank you. Jai Shri Krishna. Om Namo Narayanaya.